Morning chaos ruled the sprawling mansion of the wealthy family, where the air buzzed with a strange mixture of tension and exhaustion. David, the CEO of a thriving construction company, stood in the grand kitchen, his usually sharp mind tangled with frustration and fatigue. The morning sun poured through the towering windows, casting long shadows on the marble floor, but inside, the atmosphere was far from peaceful. Two tiny whirlwinds, Ava and Ethan, his mischievous toddler twins, tore through the room like storms of pure energy. Their laughter, loud and unrestrained, bounced off the high ceilings as they darted between the gleaming countertops and polished cabinets, leaving a trail of chaos in their wake. Plates teetered precariously on the edge of the island. Half-filled sippy cups spilled forgotten drinks onto the floor, and a scattering of toys littered the space like a minefield. David's hands trembled slightly as he tried to juggle preparing breakfast while keeping an eye on the tornadoes that were his children. His heart ached with a blend of love and helplessness. How could such small beings hold so much power to drain a man so completely? He called their names softly at first, then louder, his voice wavering with fatigue and a desperate hope for order. But Ava and Ethan, sensing the challenge, only laughed harder, their bright eyes sparkling with defiance. Each attempt to calm them was met with squeals of protest or bursts of giggles that pierced David's resolve. He had lost count of how many nannies and helpers had come and gone in recent months, each unable to withstand the twins' wild spirits or meet their impossible standards. These children were not merely naughty, they were tempestuous forces of nature, testing the limits of patience and sanity. David wiped a sheen of sweat from his brow, glancing at the clock. Time was slipping away, deadlines looming, yet his home had become a battlefield where the war was won or lost in tantrums and laughter. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, not just as a father struggling to raise his children, but as a man who carried the expectations of a powerful legacy. Yet beneath the chaos, beneath the exhaustion, there was a flicker of something fierce and unyielding, the stubborn love of a father unwilling to surrender, even when the storm around him raged fiercest. And so, amid shattered plates and scattered toys, David steeled himself, ready to face another tumultuous morning in the mansion that was both his kingdom and his prison. The morning's fragile calm shattered the moment Emily, David's wife, entered the grand dining room, her footsteps sharp and purposeful on the polished hardwood floor. Her eyes, fierce and determined, locked onto David as if searching for a crack in his weary armor. The twins, momentarily distracted by their own antics, sensed the shift in atmosphere, their laughter fading into uneasy silence. Emily's voice cut through the thick tension like a whip. She challenged David about the children's clothes, her words dripping with frustration and disappointment. "They can't wear those hand-me-downs anymore, David. They're too old for last season's styles. We can't have the socialites at the gala whispering about our family's image." David's jaw tightened, the weight of expectation pressing down harder. He looked at Ava and Ethan's rumpled outfits, stained and mismatched, and felt a sting of guilt mixed with exhaustion. He had wanted to dress them simply, to let them be children, but the relentless demands of society, the pressure of appearances, clawed at his resolve. Emily's tone shifted, sharper now, as she pivoted to their morning habits. And the mess. This chaos every single day, the yelling, the tantrums, it's unacceptable. We need structured discipline. If we don't control this now, they'll grow up spoiled and out of control. David felt a flicker of anger rising, but it was tangled with sorrow. He wanted to shield his children from harshness, to hold on to their innocence for just a little longer. They're just kids, Emily. They're not perfect little models. They need love, not pressure to fit into some mold. Her eyes softened for a fleeting second, but the hard edge returned quickly. Love isn't letting them run wild, David. Love is teaching them to behave, to succeed in a world that won't wait for them to catch up. The room seemed to shrink around them, the distance between husband and wife stretching wider with every exchanged word. The twins, sensing the emotional storm, clung to each other, their small hands trembling. David's heart ached, caught between the fierce love for his children and the relentless demands of a world that refused to pause for their chaos or their laughter. In that heated moment, the mansion felt less like a home and more like a battleground of ideals, love clashing with discipline, freedom wrestling with control. Yet beneath the rising tension, a fragile hope lingered, that somehow, amidst the struggle, they could find a way to hold on to each other and to what truly mattered most: family. The tension from the morning's clash still lingered in the air, thick and suffocating, as David retreated to his study, desperate to find a solution that could ease the mounting chaos. His mind raced with images of the twins' unruly mornings, Emily's sharp rebukes, and the unrelenting pressure of maintaining an impeccable household. He knew the key to restoring balance lay in finding someone who could not only manage the daily whirlwind, but also bring a sense of calm, kindness, and order to their lives. He picked up the phone with trembling hands, his voice betraying a hint of desperation as he called the agency renowned for their elite domestic staff. Each conversation felt like a test as he explained their needs: someone firm yet gentle, experienced with children, and able to navigate the unpredictable energy of Ava and Ethan. He imagined a figure who could be the silent guardian of their mornings, a steady presence amid the chaos, someone who could ease Emily's worries and David's own fears of losing control. Days passed with a parade of candidates, some too stern, others too indifferent. Each interview chipped away at David's hope. He watched as Emily's eyes grew colder with every failed attempt, her patience thinning like the last fragile threads of their morning harmony. The children's unruly behavior seemed to swell in response, as if sensing the household's uncertainty. Then came Clara, quiet, composed, with a gentle smile that seemed to hold a reservoir of understanding. From the moment she stepped into the grand hallway, her calm presence wrapped around the house like a soothing balm. She listened carefully as David and Emily detailed their struggles, her eyes reflecting empathy, without judgment. When she interacted with the twins, something shifted. Ava and Ethan, usually restless and wary, responded with tentative smiles, their small hands reaching out as if recognizing a safe harbor. David felt a flicker of cautious hope rise inside him. Could this be the person who would weave order into their tangled days? Emily's gaze softened, the tension in her shoulders easing ever so slightly. Clara didn't promise miracles, but her quiet confidence suggested a steady hand, one willing to face the storm with patience and grace. As the first morning with Clara unfolded, the house breathed differently. The mess was still there, the noise still loud, but beneath it all was a new rhythm, one that hinted at peace, a fragile thread of hope stitching together the fractured family. David watched from the doorway, heart heavy yet hopeful, knowing the true test lay ahead, whether this new presence could not only tame the chaos, but also heal the deeper rifts threatening to tear them apart. Clara sat quietly in the dimly lit kitchen one evening, the soft hum of the refrigerator filling the heavy silence that clung to the room. The day's trials had weighed on her, but something deeper lingered beneath her calm exterior. A story untold, a burden carried in the shadows of her past. David, who had begun to sense there was more to Clara than met the eye, hesitated before gently asking if she would share her story. At first, her eyes flickered with guarded hesitation, a flicker of pain that softened into reluctant trust. "My name is Valerie," she began, voice trembling yet steady, "and I've lived a life shaped by loss and resilience." She told them about a childhood steeped in hardship, raised in a small town where opportunities were scarce and dreams often died young. Her parents had struggled to keep the family afloat, their love often overshadowed by the crushing weight of poverty and illness. Valerie's youth was marked by moments of fierce determination and heartbreaking sacrifice, stepping in as a caregiver for her younger siblings when her mother fell ill. The warmth she gave to her family was often met with cold indifference from the world beyond their worn doorstep. But the most shattering blow came when Valerie lost her youngest brother in a tragic accident, a loss that hollowed her heart and changed the course of her life forever. She spoke softly of the guilt she carried, the what-ifs that haunted her nights, and the fierce promise she made to protect those she loved, no matter the cost. That promise led her to become a caretaker, to find purpose in the service of others, and to search for a place where she could belong and heal. David and Emily listened with rapt attention, the layers of their own struggles suddenly mingling with Valerie's pain. They saw in her not just a caretaker, but a survivor, someone whose strength had been forged in the crucible of adversity. The house, once a stage for daily battles and petty complaints, seemed to hold a new kind of hope, fragile but real. Valerie's story broke through the walls of their own frustrations, reminding them of the power of compassion and the unseen battles each person carries. In that quiet kitchen, surrounded by the echoes of the past and the fragile light of understanding, the family began to glimpse a new path forward, one where healing was possible, not just for the household's chaos, but for the wounds that ran deeper still. The morning light spilled through the grand windows of the mansion, casting long shadows on the marble floors as Valerie stood nervously in the spacious living room, awaiting her first real test, the interview with the family she might soon serve. The air was thick with anticipation, a palpable tension that settled over the room like a dense fog. David paced quietly nearby, his usual composure tinged with an unusual mixture of skepticism and hope, while Emily sat cross-legged on the velvet sofa, her eyes bright but curious, silently measuring Valerie's every move. As Valerie took a deep breath, she could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on her shoulders, mingling with the quiet tremors of doubt inside her own heart. She knew this was more than just a simple conversation. It was the first step toward acceptance, a fragile bridge connecting her past of hardship to a possible future of belonging. The family's questions came swiftly, probing her experiences, her motivations, even the small details of her daily habits. Each answer was delivered with a careful honesty, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions churning within. Then came the challenge, a practical test designed to reveal more than just skills, the ability to adapt under pressure, to stay calm when the unexpected surfaced. Emily handed her a delicate crystal vase and asked her to clean it thoroughly without causing a single scratch or chip. Valerie's hands, steady but gentle, moved with precision and care, every movement revealing the meticulous nature honed through years of hardship and responsibility. The room fell silent except for the faint sound of her polishing cloth gliding over the glass, a quiet testament to her patience and grace. David exchanged a glance with Emily, the unspoken question lingering in the air. Could this woman, carrying the weight of her painful past, truly fit into the polished world of their privileged home? Yet, beneath their scrutiny, Valerie's calm resilience shone brighter than any diamond, a quiet defiance against the judgments silently cast. When she finally set the vase down without a single flaw, a subtle nod of approval passed between the siblings, a small victory, but one that hinted at the possibility of trust, of connection. As the interview drew to a close, Valerie felt a flicker of something she hadn't dared to feel in a long time. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this household, with all its chaos and expectations, could become the place where her story began anew, not as a shadow of the past, but as a light toward a better tomorrow. ChatGPT said. Days turned into weeks, and slowly but surely, the atmosphere within the grand estate began to shift, like the first gentle stirrings of spring after a harsh winter. Valerie's presence, once met with suspicion and guarded silence, started to weave itself into the fabric of the family's daily life. The house, once tense and chaotic, now breathed with a subtle harmony, as if the walls themselves had softened to the warmth she brought. David's sharp eyes, once skeptical and critical, now held a quiet respect, while Emily's initial curiosity blossomed into genuine affection. It wasn't a sudden transformation, nothing so easy or simple, but a gradual unfolding of understanding, trust, and acceptance. Valerie herself felt the change deeply, a delicate peace settling within her heart as the bruises of her past began to fade in the light of newfound purpose. No longer the outsider looking in, she moved through the halls with a quiet confidence, her tasks no longer just chores but acts of care that stitched her closer to the family she served. She learned their rhythms, their unspoken needs, the small moments that revealed the true essence of belonging. At night, when the house was still and the world outside faded away, she sometimes caught herself smiling softly, a rare and precious feeling of home blooming inside her. The family, too, found themselves reshaped by her influence. Arguments that once ignited over trivial things now melted away in the face of shared moments, an unexpected dinner cooked with warmth, a helping hand during a difficult day, a quiet conversation that bridged years of silence and misunderstanding. David's stern demeanor softened, revealing glimpses of vulnerability beneath the surface, while Emily's laughter filled rooms that had once echoed only with tension. Together, they began to discover that peace was not merely the absence of conflict, but the presence of compassion. In the quiet glow of an evening, as Valerie arranged fresh flowers in the grand foyer, she realized that what they had built was fragile yet strong, a delicate dance of forgiveness and hope, stitched with patience and care. The mansion, once a battleground of frustrations and clashing wills, had become a sanctuary where wounds could heal and broken hearts could find rest. It was not perfection, but a fragile peace born from the courage to change, to open up, and to embrace the imperfect beauty of family. And in that peaceful embrace, Valerie found her own redemption, not through grand gestures or dramatic turns, but in the simple, quiet moments where love slowly, gently, reshaped them all.